Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Anna. Hi, guys.
So, Anna, how are you doing today? You look particularly energetic.
Oh, I am. I am very energetic today. I had 2 big coffees this morning. So, yeah, I'm feeling great. How about you, Dan?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Just busy as usual. But I'm really excited for today's topic because I think it's something literally everyone worries about at some point.
Totally. It's a huge topic, especially if you're learning English and maybe living in a new country.
Exactly. So today we are talking about the art of making friends.
Ooh, making friends. It sounds so simple when you're a kid, right? But
it's not. It's actually, it's kind of hard, even for native speakers, to be honest.
It really is. So in this episode, we're going to dive into where to find friends, what to actually say to them, and, how to not feel too awkward.
Awkward. That is a perfect word for this. We'll definitely break that down later. But first, okay, Anna, real talk. Why is it that we're even doing a whole episode on this? Why do friends matter so much?
Well, for one, without them, I'd probably just talk to my cat all day.
I mean, I do that anyway.
Me too. But seriously, friends make us happy. They help us practice English, obviously, and they just make life less lonely.
Exactly. And for our listeners, it's important to know that there's a difference between the English you use in class and the English you use to make friends. We call the playground or coffee shop stuff social English.
Right, social English. It's the language of everyday communication, talking to friends on the bus or at a grocery store.
And the thing is, it develops fast, maybe in a few months, but mastering it takes time. It's different from academic English, which is what you need for school or work.
Yeah, academic English is way more demanding, but social English, that's the tip of the iceberg. It's how you actually connect with people.
So let's talk about that connection. How do we start? Anna, if you're at a party, what's the first thing you do?
Well, I usually start with small talk.
Small talk. I know some people hate it. They think it's boring.
It can be, but think of small talk like the inactive ingredient in a medicine.
Wait, what? Like a pill?
Yeah. One expert says the inactive ingredient holds the pill together. Small talk does that for conversation. You need it to get to the substantive or meaningful stuff later.
That's a cool way to put it. So it's a warm-up.
Exactly. You can't just walk up to a stranger and ask, "What is your deepest fear?"
Oh gosh, no. That would be, super awkward. There's that word again.
So you start small, the weather, the food, or just a simple, "Hello, I'm Anna."
Right. And then you need to actually listen and not just hear the words, but use active listening.
Active listening. That sounds like a workout.
Sort of. It means being fully present. You have to put away your phone.
Oh, that's a big one. It's so tempting to look at your phone when you feel nervous.
Definitely. But active listening is a power skill. It shows you actually care about the other person's inner world. You're tuning into them and stepping away from your own thoughts for a minute.
I love that. And it's not just what you say, right? It's your body.
Yes, 65% of communication is unspoken, so you should use non-verbal cues. Smile, lean in, and don't fold your arms. That looks like you're blocking them out.
And eye contact, but not, staring contest eye contact.
Right. There's a 50-70 rule for that.
50-70? What's that?
You should maintain eye contact for about 50% of the time you're speaking and 70% of the time you're listening, and only hold it for about 4 or 5 seconds before looking away briefly.
Okay, so don't be a creepy serial killer. Got it.
Exactly. Just a normal human face.
So let's say I've done the eye contact, I've said hello. How do I keep it going? I always worry about that dead air where nobody knows what to say.
The first move is hard, but the key is open-ended questions.
Instead of yes or no questions.
Exactly. If I ask you, do you like music? You just say yes. Conversation over. Dead end.
But if you ask, what kind of music do you like to listen to when you're relaxing?
Then you have to give me a real answer. You can ask things like, what do you think about? Or how did that make you feel? It shows genuine curiosity.
Curiosity is so important. I read that being curious makes it easier to stay engaged because you actually want to know more.
It's like a 1-2 punch. You connect to what they said, maybe share a tiny bit about yourself, and then ask a follow-up question.
Like, if someone says they're a teacher, I could say, "Oh, wow, that's a tough job. What made you want to get into that field?"
Perfect. You're digging for details. That's how you move from the shallows of small talk into the deeper, more meaningful stuff.
And you have to be patient.
Oh, absolutely. Don't try to fill every silence with your own stories. And this is huge. Don't prepare your reply while the other person is still talking.
I am so guilty of that. I'm like thinking of a funny story to tell next instead of really listening.
We all do it, but active listening means being a sounding board first.
I like that, a sounding board, just letting them vent or share.
And you can reflect what you hear. Like, it sounds like you're saying you're frustrated with your boss. It makes them feel validated.
Validated, that's a good one. It means like they feel heard and understood.
Exactly. Now, Anna, let's talk about something a bit more scientific. Did you know that your nationality might affect how often you speak up in a group?
Wait, really? Is that a thing?
Yeah, there was a study on multinational student teams. They found that Americans often have a higher baseline likelihood of starting a conversation than non-Americans.
Oh, wow. I wonder if that's because of language proficiency.
That was one theory. If your English isn't your first language, you might feel less confident jumping in, or it could be about social status in the group.
That makes sense. I definitely feel quieter when I'm the only one in the room who isn't a native speaker.
But the study also showed that everyone has a memory function. Basically, if you just spoke, you're more likely to speak again soon.
So the more you talk, the easier it gets to keep talking.
Exactly. So the hardest part is just getting that first sentence out.
Okay, so note to self, just say one thing, anything.
Even if it's, "This pizza is great."
Speaking of saying things, there's this concept called pragmatic competence.
Pragmatics, that sounds like a linguistics class. It is, but it's super useful. It's about how context contributes to meaning.
Like when words have more than one meaning.
Right, like the sentence, "You have a green light."
Okay, that could mean I'm driving and the light is green.
Or it could mean, "I give you permission to start your project."
Or like literally my body has a green glow.
Hopefully not that. But you see, as a friend, you have to understand the intended meaning, not just the literal words.
Or like the word bank. I could be going to put money away, or I could be sitting by a river.
Exactly. That's why context is everything. And part of that context is politeness.
Oh, I wanted to ask about that. Sometimes I feel like Americans are a bit indirect when they say no.
We definitely are. If someone says, "I'm afraid it's a bit late to register," they actually mean, "No, you cannot register."
That is so confusing for learners. Why not just say no?
We think it's more polite, but for a non-native speaker, it's often clearer to just say, "You cannot register. It is past the deadline."
I agree. Give it to me straight.
Well, since we're talking about art, let's look at some fun vocabulary. Let's say we're at a party. Anna, what are some party idioms our listeners should know?
Oh, I love these. Okay, first one, the life of the party.
That's the person who's super energetic and fun, right?
Exactly, the most entertaining person there. But you don't want to be a party pooper.
A party pooper. That's the person who brings everyone down.
Yeah, someone who saps the fun energy. And if you're someone who loves going to lots of different social events, you might be a social butterfly.
I like that, a social butterfly fluttering around talking to everyone.
And if you really enjoy yourself, you can say you're having a whale of a time.
A whale of a time, like a big time?
Yeah, it just means you're having a great time.
Okay, listeners, let's do a quick role play to use some of this. Anna, let's pretend we're at a housewarming party.
Okay, I'm the host. I'm throwing a party.
And I'm a friend of a friend. Ready? Ooh, it is really upbeat in here, huh? The music is rockin'.
Oh, thanks. I wanted it to be electrifying. I'm Anna, by the way. I'm the host.
Hi, Anna. I'm Dan. I'm a friend of Sarah's. This is a great place. The decor is so funky.
Oh, you're too kind. Sarah is a total social butterfly. I'm surprised she isn't here yet.
She probably has 3 other parties to attend tonight. So, how do you know Sarah?
We were in the same boat back in college, both physics majors. It was pretty wild.
And scene.
Wow, Dan, you're a natural.
I try, but did you notice what I did there? I commented on the room, then I gave a compliment about the decor, and then I asked a follow-up question about how you knew Sarah.
It felt very smooth. It wasn't like an interview.
Exactly. It's like tennis. You hit the ball back and forth.
And if I didn't understand something you said, like if you used a weird idiom, I could just ask, right?
Please do. Most people are happy to slow down or explain. You can just say, sorry, I'm an English learner. Could you say that again?
It's better to be honest than to just nod and pretend you understand when you really don't.
Definitely. People value that honesty.
So we've met someone, we've had a whale of a time talking. How do we actually make them a friend? Like, how do we meet again?
That's the making plans part. It can feel a little pushy if you're not careful.
Yeah,
I don't want to seem like desperate.
I usually try something casual, like I'm going for coffee after this. Want to join?
Oh, I like that. It's an invitation, but it's not too much pressure.
Right, or you can exchange social media. Are you on Instagram? It feels lower commitment than a phone number.
And if they say no, or if they say they're busy?
Then you just smile and say, no worries, maybe another time. You walk away and you're still alive.
Rejection is not death.
Exactly. It's all part of the process. Sometimes you hit it off with someone and sometimes you don't.
So let's recap some of the big points for our listeners.
Good idea. Number 1, be brave. It's okay to feel nervous, but you have to make the first move.
Number 2, use active listening. Put the phone away, make eye contact, but not too much, and really focus on their inner world.
Number 3, ask open-ended questions. Avoid those yes or no dead ends.
Number 4, follow the reciprocity principle. If they share something, you share something. It builds trust.
And number 5, don't worry about being perfect. Real friends care about you, not your grammar.
That is so true. I have friends who speak very little English, but we still have a great time because we just enjoy each other's company.
Exactly. Connection is about more than just words.
So, should we give them some homework?
Oh, I love homework.
Okay, listeners, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to say hello and ask one open-ended question to someone new this week.
Just one. It could be the person making your coffee, a neighbor, or someone at the gym.
And if it feels awkward, just remember Dan and Anna said it was okay.
Exactly. We're all in the same boat.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
If you like this episode, tell a friend. Maybe a new friend?
Good one, Anna.
We'll put the transcript and some key phrases in the show notes for you to practice. Keep speaking, keep smiling, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See ya.